let us seize the opportunity. Let's normalize not knowing what we want to do for the rest of our lives when we're 18. I promise you that you deserve more than the suffering and the misery that you may be feeling at this point. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Sakura. I'm a Japanese American girl living in Tokyo. Today I'm going to be sharing with you about my experience on how I pivoted my career twice to landing the job that I really love right now. And then I want to share with you some thought processes and tips on how you can too if you feel like you're stuck and you want to change your career. When I was growing up, I really admired and envied people who knew exactly what they wanted to do ever since they were little. I never really felt inspiration or, I guess, effects from the peers around me as well as my parents and just people around me in general. So I kind of went through life focusing on getting good grades and being a good student rather than working towards a passion or something that I liked. After I graduated from university, by the way, I got a bachelor's degree in communications and liberal arts in sciences. I really enjoyed my education there, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Let's normalize not knowing what we want to do for the rest of our lives when we're 18. A mere 18 with no knowledge of the world. And also let's normalize that we can change our minds, that if you go one path that you might want to change it in the future. I feel like there's a lot of stigma around that, especially from the generation of my parents where you stuck to one job for the rest of your life, especially in Japan, and you just kept your head down and no matter how miserable you are, you just stuck through it to provide for your family. We're not in this generation anymore, and I think that we have more options and we should definitely use that to our advantage to find something that we really either love or can feel fulfilled or give us the things that we really need from a career. So anyway, my first job out of college was at Apple Retail and in Japan. So I joined this program called the ASLP program, Apple Store Leadership Program, which is basically a rotational retail program where you do all the positions available in the store and then spend the second year examining that through a leadership lens. And then you're on the way to becoming basically a retail manager in the future. But the first time I pivoted was here when I realized that being a retail manager was not something that I wanted to do in long term, and I knew that I really wanted to connect more with people and understand the business of like people or people ops. So I pivoted into HR. I was lucky enough that after that 2 years I found a position that opened up right then and there at Apple Retail for a generalist HR role, so I was lucky enough to get hired into being the first person in Japan for that role. So after that, I did that for about 9 months. I realized that I wanted to do a little bit more of a specialty within HR. If you don't already know, HR is a huge field, so it's really hard to like kind of understand all of it, but I wanted to learn a little bit more. So I decided that I think recruiting might be an interesting gateway into HR that could kind of give me like an overview of the business. So that's when I quit Apple and went into my second company, which is Google Japan, and then I joined the recruiting team there. After doing recruiting for about 2.5 years, I had also realized that, I learned so much in the first year. I love the people there, I love the company, it's amazing, but the job isn't exactly what I wanted to do. And both times when I was reaching kind of my limit at Apple Retail and Google Recruiting, I just felt so much dread knowing that I needed to change my career but not knowing where to go and what to do next. But I thought a lot about my experiences, and what I really wanted to do was help enable people to do their best at work, as well as not only like employee wellness, but in a like making business impact as well. So I was very interested in learning and development, which is like building out training programs and stuff like that. And within Google Recruiting, I had taken some time to do an L&D project, which I loved. So based on that experience, even though I was never formally in L&D, I knew that that was something I really wanted to do. I decided to make a big decision to quit Google, so my second company, and join a different American tech company in Japan, which gave me an opportunity to become the L&D lead for Japan, which was like kind of a dream come true. So this is my current job now. I've been here since December of last year, so it would be 3 months now in. I know it's still too early to tell, but I'm definitely getting so many green flags in my gut about how right this role is for me. So long story short, I pivoted first from retail into HR/recruiting. And then my second pivot was going from HR/recruiting into learning and development. So now I want to take you through my thought process and my advice on how you can make a change in your career if you're thinking about like wanting to do something different, first of all, or wanting to get out of something that you know isn't right for you, or if you want to, for example, utilize your strengths and the passion that you have and turn that into a role that you want to do rather than just like having a job that you hate and just making money. So here's the whole process. The first and foremost thing before making a change in your career or pivoting is doing some pre-work. Like doing some pre-work and thinking about like what it is that you want to do next. I was lucky to be at two really great companies, even though I didn't like the position that I was doing. But I feel like a lot of us, we get to the point where we hate our jobs or don't want to do our jobs anymore in order to pivot into something else. And I feel like by that time it's a little bit too late because then it becomes really stressful and you're thinking so much about how to get out rather than working towards something that you actually love. So this is why it's really important to think about like asking yourself the right questions about like where you want to go next. You don't want to run away from something. You want to run towards something so that you can make a better decision for yourself in the work that you actually want to do. So that's like something to keep in mind. So what kind of questions should you ask yourself? I mean, there's so many things that I thought about, right? Like for example, within my job right now, what do I like and what do I don't like? What are my deal breakers? Like what would I not want to do in my next job? And what do I want to grow in my next job? Another question that I asked myself was, what do I find most meaningful or fulfilling in my job, right? So as an example, like I think people who are in customer service who love it, which I really admire, they really say that they love making the connections and talking to customers and making them happy about like maybe the product they wanted to buy or how they can like change their life with technology, right? For example, at Apple. I did not necessarily like talking to strangers and it gave me a lot of anxiety because of the unpredictability of my day and all this stuff, but I did like making those connections. So I find making connections to be meaningful while the unpredictability of a customer facing role like that is something that I didn't want to, I didn't really find fulfilling, neither do I want to do in my next job. So again, these are just some examples. Another really important question I asked myself was, what do I want to learn and what do I want to keep learning? This is really important because I feel like in your job, when you stop learning, you become bored and also very, very demotivated. So it's important that you kind of open yourself up to new opportunities if you want and new like chances to kind of learn new things. I really do feel like as a human being, that's like a part of being human in general. But even in a job, if you can do that continuously, I feel like it kind of helps elevate your motivation as well as like your passion on the thing that you're doing because you're not doing the same thing all the time. Some people prefer that, but I think other people don't, and I'm in the other people category, so if you're like that too, definitely consider this question. And then lastly, what are you motivated by? Again, this kind of goes along with the question about like what you find meaningful or fulfilling, but what motivates you? Like, again, if you're in a customer-facing job, let's say an example in retail, like is it the smile that the customer gave you after they're satisfied? Is it like the problem solving and thinking about what product that you want to give to the customer that you think will be best for them? Is it talking to your peers while on the job to make those connections and help empower people to do their job best? What is it about your job right now that motivates you? And how do you want to capture that in your next job? So some of these questions you really have to think about not only like right now before doing your next job, but also thinking about reflecting, right? About your current job as well as what you want to do your next job. So take some time, like really take some time to think about those questions. Reflect on yourself because by knowing yourself really well, that's going to help you find the right job for you in the future. Okay, so the second step is understanding the next job that you want. So hopefully by doing some of those reflections and asking yourself those really important questions in the first part, you'll kind of understand what it is that you want to do next. So what field is it in? What kind of role is it? What kind of position is it? The next step into actualizing your goal of pivoting your career is to understand that job that you want. So let's say I decided that I want to become a consultant. I can do a little bit research about understanding that job. So for example, what kind of consulting companies are there? What kind of, out of those companies, what kind of company do I want to work for? Is there a specific type of consulting that I want to do? Do I want to lead a team? Do I want to do this or that? Like, think about what you want to do next and find that in like job postings and actual jobs that exist right now in the market, and then look at those job descriptions and understand that job. So what you want to do with this information is not only understand like what you're working towards, but also the skills that you will need in order to land that job, right? So you're assessing like, this is a job that I want, here's the qualifications, here's the skills that I need, here's what I want to do. This is all the package right here that you want to do next, right? So that is really important to identify that goal that you're going to be trying to be running towards. One thing that you can do to help kind of make this a more fun process is definitely having informational interviews. So what this is just reaching out to either somebody in your own network or somebody on LinkedIn, just anybody that you know is doing the position that you want, and asking for their time to interview them about their job. You know, so by having a first-hand anecdotal evidence on what the job can be like, you know, the good parts as well as the bad parts, then you can even assess further like if that's something that you want to do. So I highly recommend you start networking here, and I say network very lightly because I hate that word and I'm really bad at networking, but just reaching out, just think of it as reaching out to your benefit to understand the role and the position that you want so that you can work towards it. The next step that I think is so crucial in career pivoting and changing in your career that nobody really talks about is starting to create advocates in your networks. And I'll go into what that means, and then also being really vocal about what it is that you want to do next. So let's break those two parts down. The first one is creating advocates. So in your job right now, think about, is there a mentor that you look up to? Is there somebody that you can confide in? Is your manager someone that would be understanding of you and your career ambition goals? This is a really important thing to ask, because when you create advocates for you, so someone who knows your career plans and ambitions, someone who can support you, someone who can give you advice on the track that you want to go, that will open up so many doors than you can realize, and that is the easiest way to kind of start networking into the field that you want to go in. So for me, I was really lucky enough and also made sure that I was brave enough to talk about my career ambitions with the managers that I had at Apple and at Google. Again, I was lucky because they were very supportive, but I had to advocate for myself, telling them that here's what I like about this job now, here's the development things that I want to do, here's the skills I want to learn about, and then eventually here is actually a career path that I really want to pivot into in the future. And by having these discussions, what you can call career conversations, regularly, maybe like once at least a month, or maybe once at least a quarter, you know, every 3 months, with someone that you trust, you can create those advocates for you who will vouch for you when that kind of role, for example, opens up in your company, or maybe they have their own network where they'll think of you and say, hey, this person was interested in this, maybe this would be a good role for them. And the second part that I talked about was being vocal. Again, you have to tell people what you want to do. You have to make sure that you're opening yourself up to these opportunities. And of course, there's definitely situations where you can't, right? Maybe you have a really toxic environment of work, or maybe you have a really toxic manager. And in that case, obviously, you have to be careful about who you share this information with. So instead, outside of your work, find friends, find peers, find your professors, find people outside of your own personal work network to network even further, to be vocal about what it is that you want to do. When you have advocates for yourself, you might not have the opportunity right now to go into the job that you want. Maybe it'll be in 2 months, maybe it'll be in a year. You never know. But by having these people who support you and know you about what you want to do is so crucial to gatewaying into the networks and opportunities that you may want in the future. So definitely think about this. Please do this, and please do it early so that you don't like just tell your boss like, hey, I want to do this job, and they're like, okay, but I didn't know you want to do this and I don't know how to help you. Make people want to help you. Also make sure to do a lot of self-reflection. You don't want to waste people's time by saying like, hey, I just want to do this very lightly. The next fourth step, let's talk about it, is kind of the fun part for me. And again, this should be kind of a long-term thing. Be proactive and learn. right? So when we talked about identifying and understanding the role and the role and the position that you want to do, you also learned a little bit about what it takes to do that job. So again, bringing up that consulting job, right? Like maybe you need to be good at stakeholder management, which means that you can balance expectations and deadlines with people. Maybe you need to have a very good business acumen. You need to understand data and how to do research and how to put that together into an information that people can digest. There's different skill sets that you learn from understanding the job and the role that you want. And now it's time to put that into practice. You got this. You gotta put it into practice. You gotta put this stuff into practice, guys. So that means that you are actively learning. You're actively looking for opportunities to learn about these skills. As I mentioned, when I was at Google, I did a 20% project, which is a really great initiative by Google where you can spend 20% of your time doing a different project completely unrelated to your field. So I told my manager, hey, I want to learn about learning and development. Here's the posting I saw for it. I want to do this project. And because I had been talking to him about my plans and my goals and what I wanted to do, and he was an advocate for me, he said, okay, Sakura, you do that. I'm rooting for you, and good luck with the 3 months that you're doing that project. And that ended up helping me get my next job, right? Start looking for those spots. Talk to other managers in different teams and say, hey, I'm really interested in learning about your field. Is there any way I can shadow the people on your team, or maybe I can help out with X, Y, and Z? And most of the time, I think that if you're in a pretty good environment, pretty okay environment, people will be thrilled that you want to learn about what they do, right? So make that to your advantage and making sure that you grab those opportunities to learn those skills that you need in order to get that job that you want. You can also look for resources too. For example, if you're pivoting to a completely new career and you're like, I don't even know where to start. For example, a lot of people pivot into coding, right? Doing coding boot camps, but a lot of people are actually self-taught and do things on the computer, doing programs and things that are free first to see if they really like it. So start again talking to people, networking, asking for work that's related to the skills that you want to learn so that you can upskill, and also create and look for the resources that you need to kind of supplement that real-time work and skill as well as the theoretical skill and like things that you need to learn, and put that together to make sure you can do that for your next job. And now it is time, the last step, for you to seize the opportunity. You gotta seize the opportunity. You gotta seize it. Seize it. You gotta seize the opportunity. So hopefully after you do all this, and again, yes, it does take a long time, as you can imagine. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of self-work and self-reflection. Yes, it is hard. I'm not gonna lie. It was so difficult for me to pivot those 2 times, but I can tell you it was so worth it. Now that you've done all those things for preparation, you can finally seize the opportunity. This is when you can start applying to those jobs that you talked about. This is when you reach back out to your advocates and to the networks that you already made and to the people you did informational interviews with and say, hey, I'm now looking for a job in this field. Do you know any positions? Do you know any companies? Can you refer me? Can you, help me understand better what jobs may be open? By understanding where you were, where you want to go, how to get there, doing the work and putting in the work to help you get there, that you will get there eventually. I remember at one point when I was looking for internal jobs at Google, meaning jobs within Google, not leaving the company, but a different job, I had done like informational interviews with like 5 to 10 managers that I wouldn't even be working with, that I can't even apply to their jobs, saying like, hey, I'm really interested in your team, like can I talk to you about what you guys do, what your vision is, all this stuff. And I even made one connection there, and she said like, hey, if I had a spot on my team, I would completely hire you. And I was so inspired by that, and I was so motivated by that, by the fact that she said even though I didn't have the experience, she said I would hire you if I had headcount. So even if it didn't work out that I was on her team, I knew that would be someone that I could, for example, talk back into if I was looking for an opportunity, in her team in the future, right? I promise you that you deserve more than the suffering and the misery that you may be feeling at this point. You deserve more than the numbness that you're feeling, the dread that you're feeling, going into work every day, knowing that you're not, first of all, at your full potential, that you're not having a good time, and that even though work is supposed to be something meaningful and fulfilling for you, it's absolutely not. something that kills your mental and emotional health that it did for me at those times, you deserve to get out. You deserve to find something better for you. Wow, I feel like this was like a really chaotic video. I'm sorry. I got really heated up about career and talking about my experience because it has felt like such an eternity, even though I've been working for only 6 years. But I finally truly feel like I'm at peace with where I'm at right now, and I want everybody else to feel the same. I truly hope that if you're considering a change in your career, pivoting in your career, I hope you know that you can do it, and I hope that this advice helps you too. Alright, so thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments about, my career journey as well as other resources that you may need, feel free to just comment down below. Please like, subscribe, follow my channel if you're interested in stuff like this. If you like this kind of career video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and then also tell me what you want to hear next. Alright, thanks everyone so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in my next one. Bye.